I'm going to call this session of the Board of Revision to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. With me is Marcel Lorendo, farthest to my left. Next to me, Robert Upton, and my name is Harvey Diamond. The city is represented by Paul Took, and our executive assistant is Michelle Nevin. I would like to we will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision have been requested and described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this meeting must be sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to a matter must be sworn in. Please be advised that we do not accept comparative assessments as we don't consider them evidence. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of the city and its administration. We make our decisions on the basis of the evidence that we hear, and that alone, and we issue written orders that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that our decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board for the matter pertains to assessed value or to classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. Should a party wish to appeal, the information how to do so will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. And the applicant will then provide their testimony followed by any questions, and each party will be given an opportunity to sum up if they wish to do so. Once the evidence on an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for each item on the agenda today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard. Our board will deliberate in private and make our decisions, which will be mailed as soon as possible, registered mail. The information today is being recorded, live streamed, and is going to form part of a public record. We can swear the parties in. Thank you. We're going to do 450 stuff.
Do you swear in or affirm?
Sir.
Can you state your full name, please?
Paul Took?
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Do you affirm?
Okay.
Can you state your full name, please?
Here to you, Paul.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Tiffany, we've been asked to deal firstly with 415 Springfield Road.
Certainly.
So if that's satisfactory, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Property at 415 Springfield Road. We have used a rent of $13.26 square
You may
foot.
want to read the file number and the roll number first.
Oh, certainly, certainly. File number 19-2299, 415 Springfield Road, roll number 0400-16476. This is a convenience store, one story, 1,980 square feet plan area, built in 1972 with an effective age of 1982. They have sent their mailer in. The rents that I have here are all at the upper end of the spectrum. I would apologize in advance for that. These were placeholder rents, and they don't compare that well to the subject. I didn't have time to revisit it, and so the leases are more comparable to a better location and a newer building. In any case, we've used 1326 square foot, cap rate of 6.9%, vacancy of 6%. I have, on my page 6, I have the cap rate study from the City of Winnipeg, just put in as additional support. Mr. Chairman, I'm requesting a confirmation of the assessment at $339,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the assessor?
Yeah, just a couple. I think I know the answer, but your property, this property here, does it fit into one of these categories for the in your cap rate table on page 6?
We have used retail. You can see that the comparisons are not the same as the property in question.
Okay. So, but if you had to pick, I guess it would be retail strip. Would that likely be it?
Well, you know what, I can't really pick one.
Because it wouldn't really fit. Okay, that's appropriate,
To be
thank you.
honest,
And then I guess a follow-up to that is, do you know if there's any convenience store caps in your study?
I don't have that information.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Mr. Lorando, any questions?
None.
Mr. Upton, any questions?
No, not right now, thank you.
Okay, well, you don't really give us a rent comparison that shows $13.26. I'm wondering how you got that amount, and you're indicating that you're
Certainly.
defending it. I'm certain that,
Certainly.
not having looked ahead, the applicant's probably gonna have a lesser amount.
Yep.
So I'd like to
Understandable.
have some view of how you've arrived at that.
Certainly, property at Cathedral in Maine is a 7-Eleven as well, and I believe they're in a rent of about $14. Property at Arlington and Selkirk is in at $14 as well. These are actual leases that, for the properties that I'm mentioning to you. So with respect, drove by this property this morning, and the traffic is not super great. The building appears tired, for lack of a better term. So I'm quite comfortable with it at the lower end of the spectrum. To give you a bit of insight, the lowest rent that I have in the city of Winnipeg for any sort of convenience store is a mom and pop operation on Redonda, I think, on a side street, and that came in at 6 net, which was I think 860 or so gross. So that's the only other real information I can give you as far as 13 being reasonable.
And is there not a real lease on this property? It's owned by a different party than the operator, is it not?
I believe it is, yes, sir. We have Henry Perkin as the owner. They're not the operator of the store as far as I know.
So I'm just wondering who, if you don't have the actual lease amount?
The actual here that I have on the mailer is $28,000. When I look at the 2017 mailer, I'm looking at a lease start date of 2006. So we felt that it wasn't unreasonable to look at the value with the rent on it as is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
So originally when we did our brief, we based it off of the 2017 mailer, which is on my page 3. The net operating income being $18,245.95. That is the actual NOI at 2017 to the owner, and that gets us to 1088. I am revising it, sort of because of the, or partially because of the comments the assessor made due to the fact that it is an old lease. That is a fair comment. You can see that they're making $18,000 now, and in 2011 they made, on the assessor's brief page, it's not numbered, but it says page 105 at the top, and it's a mailer from 2011, and it's net operating income of $25,262.70. I found what he did, Paul. That's what it was. Yeah. So basically, what we're going to do is we'll use the assessor. In the assessor's brief, he has a 2011 mailer that net operating income is $25,262.70, and that's what I'm going to change my net income at the top of my table here too. So that my NOI after the same shortfall management, the vacancy adjustment parameters, my NOI becomes $21,304. The cap is staying the same, I'll get to that in a second, and that gets us a value of $250,635 rounded to $251 with an 8.5% cap. And the reasons for that being, I mean, it's obvious when you have a long lease like this, your income's going to stay the same forever and expenses go up. So going back and looking at an older statement with that using that net value makes a lot of sense, because obviously that was before expenses started creeping up, and that was when it likely, in a perfect situation, it would have been re-signed at around that time in order to account for those higher expenses. So we're comfortable with that value. And again, for reference, that is in the assessor's brief as a 2011 mailer. As far as caps go, this is located just south of Chief Peguis. are, well, a few blocks south of Chief Douglas. They don't generally, buildings like this don't generally trade very well on the open market. We don't see very many caps. Recently, Max was purchased by Circle K. We haven't seen the information on that, but even so, that would obviously include a business element as well. So Circle K came into the market and purchased Max. It was an amalgamation.
It was changed, just the name change.
I
It's still open, it's still owned by Alan Mish and Couche-Tard.
had thought that
No,
they
they just,
purchased that.
they have the name Circle K as well as Max.
I'm
They
gonna have to
decided-
look that up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Either way, my point still stands. These don't trade very often. Generally, if Circle K was to leave here, you would be getting a user operator that would, or an end user that would be renting this. I would suggest that $6 that the assessor did bring up would be something that it would go to if it wasn't something like a Circle K in here. You're not gonna get people lining up the door to rent a space like this. And as far as cap goes, it's the same argument. They're not really selling to stay as convenience. If this was a fair investment, or an open market investment sale, it would likely be redeveloped or changed into something else. Our cap rates on page, I have cap rates on page 33 starting. I wouldn't call many of these very comparable. I guess if you were going to choose one, 1799 Portage would be the closest thing, just because it is, it would have similar types of tendencies where if this Circle K were to go dark, it would be something very similar to that, where you're getting month-to-month leases and not really getting an aggressive rent. Yep, and that is my presentation, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of,
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. You admit that the 1799 Portage is not really the best comparison, right?
No,
Okay.
no, definitely not. Again, it's hard to find a cap for a convenience store, it really is.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's your question, do you have the others?
Just bear with me for.
Oh,
for a moment,
absolutely,
sir.
certainly.
Thank you. So, again, looking at the mailer here,
Yep.
they're paying management on top of the rent that you've mentioned, right?
Yeah, there is a $35.94 management cost in there. It is fair to say they did report, and it doesn't really, obviously the reporting isn't consistent throughout, but if you see in my, my page 3, no, I didn't submit it. It's in the mailer that they are also paying heat, but that wasn't, there was no line item in it in the mailer, but he did have the box checked off that they were paying heat, maintenance, management. So there are expenses that are being incurred by the owner that aren't exactly being recovered. So that would, for us, that would a non-operating expense, that makes a lot of sense for management, and then there's a property management as well.
So,
We don't really treat the management as property management. To us, that's a non-operating expense,
okay.
Standardized 5%.
And yet on the form, it's termed management.
Yeah,
correct?
it's been an assessment parameter forever. That's how they put it in. We have since, I believe our current briefs say non-operating expense adjustment or something along those lines. It no longer says management.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Lardo, any questions?
What did you say you set your rent at?
It's $12.63, and that's based off of page 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. page 15 of the assessor's brief, and it's just because, obviously with an older lease, the older expenses will go up without without the income going up, so we are using an older net value of in 2011.
No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Bishop, any questions?
Yeah, your cap rate of 8.5, that's derived somewhat from, you referenced one
Well,
location.
and it's derived mainly from starting at a 7.5 per, I don't wanna say the word perfect cap, I'm trying to think, an optimal cap at 7.5% for a retail sale, and then we make adjustments based off of the site specifics.
Where'd you get the 7.5%?
7.5 is an adjustment of Collier's best rates, which wouldn't include properties like this to add in. So we start at my page 19, or sorry, my page 23.
23?
Retail, community, this would be probably community. So you would, or you potentially even strip mall, so you could, it would punch in it between 7 and 7.5 or 7 and 8, and the 7.5 just being based on it, the property itself. And then, or being the asset class of, of being a convenience store that's not necessarily commonly traded on the marketplace. And then our individual adjustments were based on site specific that you can see. So there's obviously the building size is small, it's built to suit for a convenience store, it's old, and the quality of condition is just, it was built in 1972, so you're not gonna see a building with in pristine condition at that age.
I think that's fine for now, thank you.
So, Mr. Neufeld, you acknowledge on the mailer that they did indicate that they were paying a property management fee of $2,550 a year.
Yes, actually, and it's actually higher than that in the case of what I'm actually suggesting, because we're using an older mailer where it was higher. And I did look it up, and you're right, I just changed the name. It wasn't a purchase, you were correct about Circle K.
I know that.
Yeah.
And in spite of the fact you feel that you're justified in asking for a 5% non-recoverable as well?
Yes, it's just as a standard parameter, I think the research suggests that it should be applied for everything.
So then, that you have an NOI right now already removing the management fee that they've stipulated over the
Yeah,
years. So basically, isn't that double dipping?
No, property management would be that's very separate from this. It's just because it's called management, doesn't make it management. We're gonna have this at the municipal board, and next year we're not gonna have this.
I understand, but
guarantee you.
in other cases, though, they're recovering the management fee, where you're stipulating, in this case, they aren't, because it's coming off the NOI.
Correct,
If
but
we were to
it's-
use the mailer.
If we were
So-
to use the mailer, yeah, well, no,
If we use the NOI in the mailer that they've indicated, it has a management fee already taken off. If we were to give you a
Property
5%, right, if we were to give you a 5% as well, non-recoverable,
well, that would be for, I mean, there are fees, or there's certain fees that are up further and above management that are.
I've heard the argument
very
before from
Okay.
people such as your dad and others, that the reason why
So you made
the,
up your mind already, I
excuse me,
think.
the reason why the 5% is being asked for is because the management fee is no longer given. But if we were taking the management fee off the NOI,
Okay.
you are getting it then, if I was to use those for that
If
calculation.
that's your opinion, I suppose, so yes.
Well,
I mean, I've explained it, what I've said to you, I can repeat it, but it's not property management, it's a different expense.
okay, we're not gonna agree, but.
I know that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So, got your evidence, hear from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Chairman, if I may, there's two properties that David and I both have.
Right.
Could we hear them next, if that's fine?
Absolutely, that's what my intention is, so that you don't have to stay around all day.
Not that I want to listen to them, but
Pardon?
He's got nothing better to do, he's gonna head off the meeting. That'd be 1490, right?
Can you state your full name, please?
Yeah,
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
How are
the
we gonna do this?
truth?
Two separate sets of
oh,
papers.
I guess 1490 Pembina Highway would be the next
Can you
one.
state your full name, please?
Yeah.
David, and you second?
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Now, I have extra copies of the assessor's brief, because I don't, I think it was scanned to somebody, I don't know. Do you want the paper copies?
Sure, yeah.
And then there was some extra copies of the stuff you had sent.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. We weren't sure how many copies we sent, so we just sent tons of copies back and forth,
Okay.
so. That's fine.
Okay, so let's deal with 1490 Pembina Highway.
I'll be right with you, sir.
Problem, I'm still getting organized as well, so that's no problem.
Appraisal valuation technique?
So I'm just wondering how we're gonna handle this. We have two briefs here,
Yeah.
one from each of you, and are you gonna present together, or are you gonna present firstly,
Well, I guess what I'd like to present is the non-compliance.
well, we'll wait for the application.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I'm here on behalf of the owner, and David's here on behalf of the
Yes.
tenant. So I don't mind even just going with the non-compliance part of it, and then Beckham can take care of the rest if he wants, because his argument's the same on all of them,
For sure, okay.
if that works with the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sir?
And same with your other property, is your also?
The other one is exactly the same, it's non-compliance,
Well,
it's
you know
the
what,
same
this
word.
is the situation, you know what, you wanted to stay for it, because I think if the evidence is the same for both, if we can get a decision on the first, we'll obviously have the same decision on the second, we don't have to hear the same evidence again,
Okay,
right?
yep, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I didn't find out until yesterday that the owner had filed an appeal as well, and we would have coordinated better
Yeah.
on this, so.
Well, that's fine,
so
all being
I
here now,
I apologize to the board for the little bit of confusion here, as I said.
No, it works fine.
Didn't find out
We
until
have,
late
we have
yesterday.
multiple briefs, but we can make it work.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Took, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property in question, 1490 Pembina Highway. Excuse me, we have a preliminary matter to deal with. I'm making a request. The burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation, and if a reduction is ordered, that penalties under section 5432 of the Municipal Assessment Act should carry through. If I might direct you to my brief right after the pictures. Page after the pictures, I have our proof that we sent out, that we signed for. The signatory name is a number, so I don't know what that means, but someone signed for it.
Where's the signature?
It's the next page, sir. And then a copy of the letter that we sent as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I've attempted to prove that there was non-compliance, and that we sent out a request for compliance, and respectfully request that the,
Okay, I don't have a copy of the letter with my, unless it's another page, but,
Oh, the letter.
yeah, the letter.
Yeah, the letter. No, not the letter either. Oh, yeah, further down.
Oh, it's further down? Okay, I guess it's just not sequential.
No, it's gotta get down right away.
Okay, hang on, I'll find it.
The letter is there.
Okay, I see the letter.
Page 12.
I see both of them, actually. the translation as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
Yes, I have some evidence.
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to put in.
If you want to read it, sound or roll numbers each time.
Might want to, sir.
They didn't receive the receipt.
Oh, okay.
And their year end is February 18th.
I'm just gonna use this because.
Oh,
I
I'm
know
sorry.
I'm
I'm sorry about
gonna-
that.
No, that's okay. Thanks.
If I could ask the board to turn to page 2 of my rebuttal evidence, yes. Now, the assessor's requesting the penalty for non-compliance. So page 3 and 4 of my copy. Now, when we make an appeal on behalf of the owner gives us their ID number where we can go log on to the City of Winnipeg's website and get information on the property. And the first page, number 3 there, this is from the last year's appeal. And you'll see here, it goes all the way back to 2005. And there's a column there that says sent. That'd be the fourth column in, it says sent. And then the second column from the end shows received. So as you can see, they complied in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not in 13, but in 14 and 16. And you go to page 4, this is the most recent one that's on their website right now. And I don't understand why there's differences, but this one shows that they complied in 9 and 10, but not 11, 12, 13, but the other one said they did. 14, it says it matches, and then 16, and it doesn't say anything for 17, but the 17 copy is in Mr. Cook's presentation. If I go to page 5, this is a copy of their February 28, 2014, pages 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9. And then page 10 is a copy of their February 28, 2015, and that's page 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then in page 14, now this is the one that the assessment department's asking for the non-compliance on. This is the 2017 mailer. Now for the subject, the year end is February 28th of each year. So this is the February 28th, 2018 mailer. And if you go to page 17, it's signed by the same person that signed the other ones. It's a G. Wang is his name. He's the accountant for the Becker Group of Companies. And it was signed on June 21st, 2018. Now, starting on page 18 is it's a trail of email, sorry. It actually starts on page 21. And this is, now Lauren Becker is the group of Becker Group. And I had sent him an email asking, could I please get copies of the income and expense questionnaires you sent the city for 17 for your 3 Winnipeg properties. On page 20, he forwards it to his accountant, which is G. Wang, and he sent them to me on October 15th. And then on October 15th, I asked him for the February 18 mailer as well, because he had just sent me the 17th. And then we go to page 19, at the bottom, it says, please see attached, so he sent it to me on October 15th. And then on October 21st, this is after we got Mr. Took's presentation, it says, I sent him IG, the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department, stating that the February 2018 mailers were never returned to them, but the copies you sent me show that you completed them on June 21st, 2018. Do you have anything that shows the statements were sent to the city? He says, I sent it by regular mail, so I don't have anything to prove. And then at the bottom of page 18, I says, do you have a cover letter that you sent along with the questionnaires? He says, no, I only sent the questionnaire. And I sent him another one, do you know the date you sent in February, sent in the February 2018 mailers? The date you filed out on the forms was June 21st, he says, then it should be June 21st. February 18 was their fiscal year end. So this isn't a repeat offender. They send in on a regular basis, as you can see. He said that he filled it on the 21st of June and mailed it into the city. And I am suggesting that it was misplaced by the city assessment department, and I don't think the penalty should be applied. We've had other instances, for instance, where they've sent their mailers for 311, and they've got a reply back from 311 saying, thank you for your submission, we'll give it to the assessment department. then we go to an appeal hearing and we're asked for non-compliance. So somewhere along the line, like they get in thousands and thousands, some could fall through the cracks, and I'm suggesting this one did, and I don't think the penalty should be applied. That's my presentation.
Okay, and I think instead of you asking questions, I think you'll probably ask questions now then.
Mr. Took?
Mr. Took will ask you questions.
Oh,
instead,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Took.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Mr. Becker, your page 3 of your rebuttal here,
Yes.
this is for 909 Lorette.
Oh, I put the one wrong one. Oh, sorry, I thought we were.
And same with page 4, 909 Lorette.
Yeah, you know what, there's 3 of them I got, 909 Lorette, 1490 Pembina, and 734 St. Mary.
Lorette, I think, is tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
I might have got that mixed up, but the balance of the information, I think, applies to this property. No, it doesn't. Oh, man. It's the same thing, though. Well, I guess I'm gonna rely on what I said, like, he did send in copies, a copy of it is in my presentation of the 2018. And I guess if we go to 734, hopefully I put in the right mailer. Yes, 734 St. Mary. It's the next property on the docket, that is exactly the same situation. You're correct, Mr. Took. I put in the wrong one.
Well, no, that's okay. As well, the mailer dated May 2nd, 2017 for the due date. That's for the 2016 calendar year, fiscal year, which ends February of 2017, right?
Exactly, that's right, was that the 2017 one?
The 12 months ending 02/28/2017,
2017, that would have been the one sent out for,
the previous year to
Yes.
the one in question, okay.
yeah, that's what, the one you have in your presentation, I think.
Okay. We have a reliance on the postal system to remit things to us, so I mean, no one can prove either way whether that was sent in or not. I mean, you have copies that allege that things were sent in. Mr. Chairman, we follow the same procedure with all these properties. We have.
We're now asking questions.
Oh,
I'll let you
my
make a summation,
apologies.
that's fine.
You're right, you're
That's
right.
fine.
You're right.
There might be other questions, but I'll certainly give you an opportunity
Thank
of
you.
summing up
Thank you.
as Mr., before we make this decision. It's a great decision.
Okay.
If you have any other questions, you want to ask, or I will go through here.
No, I have no further questions.
That's fine, Mr. Randall, if you have any questions of,
I'm gonna ask Mr. Took first, because we missed out at the first time.
if you have a question to ask him, absolutely go ahead and do so.
Mr. Took, on your page 2, you've only got 16, 17, what happened to the other years? Usually you give us a rundown of the other years as well.
This is a canned mailer, and our department has decided that 2 years is what the board gets. My apologies if
We've had more.
maybe you have, but this is the canned mailer that I run, and that's what comes out.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay? I'll be the party then, Mr. Randall. You're satisfied, no other
I'm
questions?
satisfied.
Okay.
I've done everything else I need.
Mr. Upton, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Took, no.
No, I've,
Mr. Becker?
yes.
Each year, they mailed it in through the postal service?
Yes,
They use that same system each year to handle this?
yep, they fill it out, put it in the mail.
Okay, thank you.
Speaker, so you filed the wrong material here today, but you're saying that you have received and you saw the same evidence for all the properties that you're dealing with,
Yes.
including the property we're dealing with right now?
Yes, and unfortunately, tomorrow morning, I'll have to change it, but it'll have 1490 Pembina attached to 909 Lorette.
Yes, you have to change that, but
Yes.
what I'm saying to you is that you have one for
Yes,
Pembina.
exactly the same, and it's actually in my presentation, the February 28, 2018 mailer is in my brief.
Okay, so through inadvertence, the wrong material I filed today, but you're satisfied that there is material that is the same that would establish the fact that your principal had mailed
the mailer.
the mailer back
Yeah.
to city.
Yeah, I have no reason to doubt them, because it's, like I said, they haven't been, they're not.
They're not,
being
I know,
effective.
they haven't been delinquent
Yeah.
ordinarily, so.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
just, I guess it's just a matter of taking the owner's word that he
Well,
sent it in and it was missed.
yeah, well, that's something we'll have to deal with, but that's fine. So, Mr. Took, you were gonna make a summation before we did consider this, and I'll let you do that, and I'll let Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Becker do as well.
Mr. Chairman, while we do take in several thousand mailers, this isn't something that we're not accustomed to. I can't testify to the potential of paper going missing. However, I can testify that I've provided proof that we've received nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
And I guess I didn't even think that they hadn't complied until I got the brief, because the owner had sent me, it's, if you'll notice, they're almost always dated around the same time, et cetera, so.
Okay, we're gonna have to make a decision on this, so if everybody can move themselves from the room, and we'll deal with it. Okay, I can advise we made a decision. We note that the application that the city has made is one that, if granted, causes grave and severe consequences to an applicant. And we don't like to impose that type of a penalty unless it's absolutely clear that there's been a disregard by the applicant for the city's procedures. In this instance, we're satisfied that Mr. Becker has provided us evidence showing that the parties have ordinarily complied, that they have complied this year, and it's always possible. I know, Mr. Took, you've indicated that you thought that the city's used to getting a lot of material and knows how to deal with it, but accidents do happen. And on this instance, we're gonna give that benefit of doubt to the applicant, and we're not gonna impose a penalty. And if the same information is exactly the same on the other
But
matter,
it's the right one, no?
it's making, we made our decision then,
Okay,
and you don't have to wait around.
okay.
Okay, because our decision will be the same, if the evidence is the same, we're not gonna change our position.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm requesting that Mr. Becker just stick around for a few minutes. I have some questions regarding the mailers that have been sent in.
Okay, on that basis, certainly, if you make yourself available
Yeah.
for that thing.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
Do you have documentation that you wanted to leave for the 734?
734, oh, the rebuttal, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At least I have.
That's where you have questions? The next one?
Sorry, yes, sir.
It's down right double-sided this one. Thanks.
That's the one he's gonna wanna ask you questions on.
Yeah, that's fine, I will.
There's two there.
Yep.
Welcome.
This is now the next property,
it will be.
but I think we're,
I needed it for the file, and he gave me 5, so I just had it.
but he wants to ask questions on this.
I'm not on this, I think Zane will ask questions on the mailers. But, okay, Mr. Took, you've got 2 briefs filed, one for each. Is there one that you're gonna be following now, or?
They're both identical to
They're
the
both
best of my
identical, okay.
knowledge, so.
No, that's not a problem, don't
whichever
apologize, I just
one.
wanna make sure that we
Sure.
disregard, because we have the board material that we need.
Oh, yeah.
In which
big
case,
call.
I'd rather use the material that you're gonna be following, but.
Fair enough.
So I'm a bit confused, so just start off which property and which brief we're looking at
Oh,
to
no,
start
we're
with,
doing-
and we'll go from there.
Sure, I believe it's 1490 Pemina that we're.
We're doing the
seeing,
1490
Okay, great.
And we're discussing the value at this point.
Yeah, okay.
May I begin, sir?
You may be begin.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, property in question is 1490 Pembina Highway, roll number 03080288000. We have 2 file numbers on this, 19-1921 and 19-4622. We have a 2020 assessment of $514,000. leases that I have shown here are between $23.38 on Ellis, up to a high of $30 on Pembina. We've used a rent of $20.10 a square foot. No management has been given towards this. Cap rate is 7.4%. Mr. Chairman, I would just like to note that we have inconsistencies on the mailers, and I will address those questions once the appellant has made their presentation as a question.
Okay,
So at this point, I ask confirmation of $514,000 for 2020.
okay. Any questions of the assessor? Mr. Mr. Beckingham?
Yeah, no questions of the assessor.
That's fine, thank you. Mr. Landro, any questions?
No.
Mr. Upton, do you have any questions?
Yeah, you made an adjustment downwards for the rent based on your comparables.
Yes, sir.
And is that a location factor, or what is that?
From my perspective, this would be more a result of age of the building. I believe the building was built in 1971, so you can update a building as much as you want, but the bricks are still old.
Okay, so you just arbitrarily made an adjustment for age or something?
I would have to say that our system has certain cutoffs for ages, and I didn't find any objection to what the system had produced for us.
Okay, thank you.
So looking at your photos, and it doesn't appear that this particular store location has a gas bar.
To the best of my knowledge, no, sir, there is no gas bar here. I believe the property on Ellis, in my comparables, has no gas bar as well.
Okay.
The one in Kuwait definitely has a gas bar, and 1103 Pembina and 3295 Pembina, I don't know offhand if they do or don't. They don't, okay.
And this location, how would you equate it to your location on Ellis that you got as a comparable?
Roughly comparable, probably a little more traffic. It could be argued that it's a slightly better area, but, you know, the business present doesn't rely on exclusively foot traffic. It relies on, you know, people who walk, bus, and drive, so roughly equivalent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Beckenham, you can provide your evidence.
Okay, so just referring to my brief, it's a pretty much a common brief for all the 7-Elevens. And really what I'll turn to page 14, shows a picture of the 7-Eleven with the location.
Which page?
Page 14. The bottom of page 14.
Yeah. No, just one second.
Just one second while I find the location, find it here.
You didn't find, there should be 2 files for this address.
Is it still in your No, that's the whole, it's not what 9 pedals, he's got the same roof for all of them. So maybe it's with your,
It's with the
That's your stuff, that's your stuff.
That's my stuff.
yeah, with the second one.
No, this is all the first one here.
I was just
There
seeing.
was one labeled as an extra copy, was that?
What brief is it that he's looking for?
That's brief.
Or maybe it was missed.
Sorry.
Here.
Two files.
Here, here's another one.
Okay, thank you.
There you go, Mike.
I didn't have that. Okay. Sorry.
No,
We'll carry on.
fine. I just, yeah, we sent a ton of copies back and forth for these, so we're trying to, we may have missed getting you one on there, so it was labeled as an extra
Well,
copy.
we got one now, so.
So, we're okay,
Okay.
so yeah, so it's just on page 14, we can see, of that brief, we can see the location and the street view of the subject. And then moving to page 16. That shows, well, I did a benchmark study against recent information that I had from 7-Elevens. The subject is there at 1490 from the highway. That number seems to be an error. To the information that I got, so it is one of the outlier ones, so it seems to be the information that's an error after conferring with the owner's information, the information I got from 7-Eleven. This came off their spreadsheets, so, and I didn't include their spreadsheet on the list here, so I thought I could just cross-reference it. But, that one does seem to be an error. That's the only one in the market area 8 there. But looking at market area 1 and market area 2, which has the majority of the stores, we're looking at around $15 for market area 2, and around $11 for market area 1. Yeah, and based off that, I determined a rent of $15 for the subject property. And then if you look at page 20, top of page 20, that's the calculations for value based on the $15 rent, keeping the other parameters the same, gives a value of $381,000.
Okay, any questions of the applicant, Mr. Took?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could just address a few questions to Mr. Becker first. Mr. Becker, you have my brief there, correct?
Yes.
I would just like to go through the mailers here and just note a few inconsistencies with you. The mailer dated 02/28/2017.
Yes.
If you go to the third page of that mailer, it's showing the rent from 2012 at the $1,396, so that's just a statement there. If you look at the next one, March 02/28/2011,
Sorry, I'm just trying to find which page was this?
I didn't mark the pages, my apologies. This would be the one with the due date of May 2nd, 2011.
That was it, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor.
you're on this one?
Yes.
Okay,
The rent there is the same as the previous one, but it's shown as a lease start date of 2007.
Yes.
Okay.
And you also, if you'll notice, based on the information I supplied, the monthly rent starting in May of 17 is also $1,000 $3.97.
Okay. If I could just direct you to the last mailer I have here, June 27th, 2007 as the due date. Will you note that the lease start date for the same rent is 1972?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I can answer that. The base rent has stayed the same, and the percentage has always stayed the same. So their monthly rent has stayed the same since '07, and there's a 2.5% extra of anything over and above the rent. So if their sales are higher than the annual rent based on $1,000 a month, then they pay 2.5% of that in addition, as additional rent.
Okay, so they're paying the same rent as when they originally got the building in 1972?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions to you, sir, on this
Well,
file?
just for clarification, the rent check that they cut each month is not the same as it was in 1972, because it includes a percentage rent. So the total amount paid is certainly gone up with inflation over time.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Again, that depends on the sales.
And sales, yeah, inflation, sales and all that sort of stuff.
So, Mr. Nishi Beckingham, I have a question for you,
Yeah.
sir. Would you not expect values to go up in 50 years, 55 years?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you look at, and I'll show you how they have indeed gone up. So if you look at the mailers to total rent paid, on total income, it works out to about $13.58. Is what the, if you include the percentage rent. But based on, I guess, 2011 mailer, so we can take a look at the various mailers here and see what kind of rent we're charging out. What's the most updated one? Oh, there we go, got them calculated out here.
The rent is actually, if you were to take from February of 14 and added in the percentage rent, in 14 it was actually $19 a square foot. In 15 it went to 14, in 17 it went to $12.53, and then 18 it went to, and again, it's,
48.
it's either that lease or it was empty. So I don't think either myself or Mr. Beckman used their actual rent, it's all been based on market.
Okay. A further question, Mr. Nishi Beckingham?
Yeah.
These lease reports here, that's from 7-Eleven?
Yes.
That's not the owners of any of these properties, except for the owner-occupied ones, correct?
Right, and there wouldn't be one for the owner-occupied ones, because they don't pay rent.
Fair enough. So,
Yeah.
when I see these notes here saying that we need to remove rent before we take any option, the example 1871 Main that I'm pointing at here, just
Sure.
when there's a change, if the building is not performing as well for the business that's there, 7-Eleven just says, this isn't performing well, we need to adjust the rent?
Well, there's two options for 7-Eleven. They'll, building's not performing for that location, so they'll either negotiate with the landlord to adjust the rent, or they'll move locations. And they have done that over the years.
Okay, so from an owner's perspective, it's to their advantage to take a lower rent as the building's been paid off several times, and the other possibility is if they don't drop the rent, it could go vacant, right?
Well, if it goes, their possibilities are that they would have to send it out to the market to find a tenant, and what's their next greatest alternative for a tenant, which would be effectively what is the market rent of that building, right? And if they're afraid of it going empty and getting a much lower market rent, then that they would be
So
willing to
these
accept
leases
a
here
lower.
basically aren't tested by the market, but they're agreed to between the owner and the lessee.
Well, that would be one of the tests of the market,
Yes,
right?
agreed.
Is put it out to the owner and
Sure.
the lessee, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Randall?
So the Pembina ones, the Pembina lease renewal proposal's not in here, is it?
No.
You can find it at the back of mine, like, you can find it February 18th in the back of mine.
That would be the income down
And that's the one that, and that shows a percentage of the,
Yeah.
that's the 2% you were talking about.
The 2.5 over the
2.5.
annual rent, sales over the annual rent.
Location. I'm okay for now.
Okay, Mr. Upton, any questions?
Your rent of $15 that you use, you said that's market rent?
there. Yes, I tried to benchmark it as to what would the market rent be based on the other lease information that I have.
Okay, and the actual rent of this location was 13 something?
1358.
13.58. That's the actual with a percentage applied of,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
No, I do have one more question, if I may,
Go
Mr.
ahead
Chair.
and answer, Mr.
Some of the 7-Elevens do not fall under yours, correct? Or do they all fall under you? 'Cause
The 7-Elevens operating on behalf of the tenants should fall under Ryan, yes. As
So
the agent for them,
for 7-Eleven,
yes.
you were the agent for the
Owner.
owner. That's why you don't fall on all of them.
I have
Okay.
one word which you've already received my rebuttal scores.
Yes, and one more tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then, how about the ones that, have you got the rents for the ones that don't fall under either?
Do I have, well, they should all fall under me, so I should have, I've got information on most of the properties. So that's why I did the benchmark study there for most recent, some of them are older leases, which I didn't include in there on page 16.
So Pembina Highway.
And these are all the standalone ones.
There's one on Clarny. Is it on here? No, it's not here. It's not in your benchmark then,
No.
the Clarny one.
No, I'm not familiar with that store off the top of my head here, but I don't believe that was one that was appealed.
Well, it's also not, but you used
Yeah.
others for benchmark.
Yeah, so if I don't have it as a benchmark, it must be an older lease that they don't have an update on.
And there's another one on Pembina Highway, it's not here as a benchmark. Two. Okay, I've got no further questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Mr. Took, would you like Mr. Becker to remain here for the remaining,
No, actually, my questions would amount to the same type of questions, so I think that line of questioning has been exhausted, and I would appreciate, I thank Mr. Vector for sitting around, but he
Okay,
may
and if there's a
leave
per-
his part of this.
and if there's a percent, and Mr. Cook, if there is a percentage rate you want us to make note of, you can point it out to us.
Certainly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you excuse, then thank you very much, Mr. Becker.
You got a vote for 7:34.
Okay, great.
So our next property then will be at 1536
That one's 1536 Portage, it's the non-7-Eleven store. So
Right,
we'll hold
that's the
that
one
to
to
the end.
describe, yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject for a
Yes.
sec. We've dealt with the preliminary matter for 734 St. Mary's, but we haven't dealt with the valuation of 734 St. Mary's.
Yeah, we still got to finish 734.
Right.
As soon as we find it.
So our next thing was 734 St. Mary's.
I believe so, sir.
Yes, that's fine. Go ahead when you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr.
And there's
Chairman.
2 files on that one as well.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, property 734 St. Mary's Road, roll number 080015031000. 2 file numbers, one is 19-1933 and 19-4623. Both files are identical, so my briefs are identical for both, let's put it that way. Mr. Chairman, I have rent comparables here listed between $25.66 and $30 a square foot. Property in question at 734 St. Mary's Road has no pumps. It is a store only. The higher rents that I have here represent generally buildings with gas pumps or buildings with additional land. The 1103 Pembina, I don't know about whether there's pumps there or not, but again, we haven't tried to use any sort of $28 or $30 rents. We've used a $21.60 rent. With the age of the building being 1972, that seems fairly reasonable, as this is a high-traffic route, and so it's not one of the lower stores. It's not one of the higher stores. It's sort of in the middle of the pack. So we've used 6% vacancy, 650 shortfall, 7.4% cap rate to arrive at a value of possibly 2 different numbers. My front page shows 714,000. My page 4 shows 554,000. I would stand with the 554,000, sir. 554 is reasonable, 714 is not. My apologies.
No problem. I can see that your arithmetic would bear out the 554 on page 4, so
Yes.
I'm sure that's what it was.
And so that's my presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of the assessor on this one? Mr. Beckenham?
No question.
No questions? Mr. Lorando?
No,
Mr. Upton?
no, I have none, thank you.
And that'll leave it. Thank you very much. Okay, you can proceed with your events, Mr. Beckenham.
Again, same comment brief, so we're right to page 14.
I think it's using the same page
Same
one.
one, yeah.
Yeah, it's in brief, should have been.
Did you end up with the same number as Mr. Becker did?
Pardon?
Did you end up with the same number on your brief?
Good question. We know we checked the first ones were within, I think they're within 10% of the check.
5% probably.
Yeah, 5% there. He did a different rent, but then added some non-recoverables and cap rate changes, so he had 410, and we'll check that here.
Ready? No.
Then we're down to 380.
Okay, everybody? Yes.
Yeah. So on page 14, basically just showing the location. And there's a view. And then referring to page 16. As the lease comparables. have that one as the in there, that one's at $8. They had a 1-year option, 2019 at $5.60, and then but benchmarking the market area 1 and the market area 2. This one is quite a bit older lease, although with a newer option on it. Market area 1 showing about $11.50 is sort of an average rent for market area 1. If you look at, didn't number these pages unfortunately, but if you look at the just before the ground lease, the second lease renewal summary that comes in is for 734 St. Mary's. That's near the back of the brief. Yeah, and so it shows the lease costs, and just for clarification, I found out a little more information on there. The base rent is the lease rate amount, and the override rent is indeed a percentage rent of the sales for the total rent of the 1608, what they're paying on a yearly basis. So based on that, I benchmarked it. If we can turn to page 19. I benchmarked it at the $15 a square foot for rent. Comes out with a value of $381 versus the assessor's $21.60.
Okay. Mr. Took, any questions?
No, sir, I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Rando, any questions?
But you did say the actual on this one comes in at 1608.
No, sorry, 16,000 is what they pay. $16,008.
I thought
And then we divide that by the square footage. I think that's the $8 there.
yeah, would be. Plus a percentage.
No, that includes the percentage.
Not a very busy store.
Yeah, that would include the percentage. I took, from the lease rates, I took the total lease amount that they paid, so that includes the percentage rent.
Okay.
Mr. Upton, any questions?
No, thank you.
So I'm referring to your unnumbered page that deals with your lease renewal proposal
Yep.
that deals with 734 St. Mary's Road.
Yes.
And it indicates a base rent and overriding, override rent. So that'd be 2.5% of gross sales,
Yes.
and whatever that works out to in any year. So that's not
That-
constant,
that-
it would vary from month to month.
That will fluctuate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it should be somewhat consistent over time. It'll fluctuate, but it should be somewhat consistent over time.
I suppose
Yeah.
it should be some, yeah.
Yeah.
Should be some consistency.
If the sales of the store increase dramatically, then they'll probably want to put another store in the area, and if sales drop dramatically, they may want to close the store, right? So it should remain somewhat consistent over time.
Okay, so in this case, there's a base rate and an overriding
Yeah.
rent on a percentage basis. Okay, thank you. Okay. So we haven't done 1536 Portage Avenue yet, have we?
No, sir.
I suppose we should probably, since it's number on the document, we should probably get that finished. I can find it, I think I filed it.
Which one are you talking about?
Number
1536
one,
Portage.
1536 Portage Avenue.
We gotta keep this one out, because that's the only brief we got, right?
That's right.
Yes.
I never got it at all.
I didn't get it.
No, we sent enough copies for each one, it's the same brief, but there should be enough copies for
No, I
everyone.
I've got it now, yeah.
Yeah,
For
okay.
15,
No, for the other one, I
It's the
don't
7-11
have it.
briefs.
It's okay, I don't need it.
Okay.
I can use the same brief.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. we
I
do.
only gave you one copy.
Oh, that's what, you
Okay.
did a
Yeah.
copy, okay.
so, we sent it like a 40-pound box of
You're
paper.
probably, you're
Yeah, I
probably
have to make sure I
With
have
copies of
another for each
everything.
file, but these guys only get one, they
Okay.
don't need one for
that, no,
each.
there's
Oh,
there
yeah,
is only
yeah.
one.
Okay.
No, but I
Yeah.
didn't get one. I should-
It's probably
Okay.
buried in
Yeah.
there.
So I've got 1536 Portage Avenue now, and Mr.
Which
Cook-
one are you looking at now?
1536
15,
Portage
yeah, okay,
Avenue.
I've got that one.
Okay? And when you're ready, Mr. Cook, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property in question, file number 19-1898, 1536 Portage Avenue, roll number 1208000100. Mr. Chairman, we have a preliminary matter to deal with. I'm requesting burden of proof be placed on applicant for non-cooperation and reduction in assessment if it's ordered to follow section 5432. Mr. Chairman, in my brief here after the pictures, I provide the mailing receipt, the signature, the copy of the letter we sent, and the forms we sent. Mr. Chairman, I've attempted to prove that this property is of non-compliance, non-responder, and respectfully request that my recommendation be taken care of.
Okay, so you made an application, and Mr. Beckham, you have a response to that?
Yes, just a response. And the reason for the appeal, and I think there will be a recommendation coming forward, is we don't disagree with the assessor's income valuation calculations, which would have been the purpose of the mailers. The property hasn't changed since they put it up. And the main issue is there's two parking lots on separate lots that form part of the subject properties. And we think those values, those parking lots should be subtracted from the, is accounted for in the income approach for the main folio. And that's our only issue here. So whether they complied or not complied with the mailer, that it's a heavy burden to put on for an issue with the way the assessor valued the property on those separate parcels. I'm not familiar enough with the folio to know what happened last cycle, but I'm assuming last cycle would have been the same issue, that those two parking lot values should have been accounted for in the main folio as well, and probably the cycle before that as well. So through an error in the way the assessors calculated his approach, they're overvalued. But it's the income approach and the purpose of the mailers, the applicant is perfectly fine with their valuation. So I don't think having a mailer or not a mailer would have changed their income approach to value on that.
I'm not sure if I follow
Yeah.
your argument, so maybe we'll clarify with questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I may be able to shed a bit of light. I do have a recommendation after the preliminary matter is decided that agrees with Mr. Nishi-Beckingham, where the parking lots are deducted from the income stream of the economic unit. So basically, I have a recommendation here for you
We should deal with the other matter first.
Yeah, we have to get to the matter first.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. And that, what, basically I'm just saying is that, there is an issue of compliance, whether they, sent the mailer in. The purpose of the mailers obviously is to derive an income, calculation and use it in their modeling. We have no problem with their income calculations and their modeling. It's just the, parking lots, that they've that are included with that. They should have been taken off last cycle, I'm not sure if they were or not. But if they were taken off last cycle, they should have just continued on this cycle.
Okay, I have a
Yeah.
question, Mr. Took. Mr. Took, there are two parking lots, are they on another roll?
That's irrelevant, Mr. Chair, with what we're dealing with right now. Right now, we're dealing with the compliance.
No, I understand, but the applicant's brought into the parking lots into the equation.
We have to deal with compliance.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
of course we have to do with compliance, but he's used, the applicant's making a
If
summation that,
if the assessment, I'm putting forward the argument that if the assessment was done correctly, and I'm assuming like it was done last cycle, including those two parking lots, it would not be appealed, it would not be here, and the compliance wouldn't be an issue, because they're fine with the value.
well, no,
Yeah.
that's another.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
That's-
Mr. Chairman, I've attached the 2018 mailer to show that one of the rents is $25, the other rent is $65 per square foot. These may be book rents, but this is information that would have been helpful to us to decide what this property was worth. We did not receive it.
Okay,
We
well,
didn't receive 2017.
okay, we'll have to make our ruling,
Yes, sir.
so we'll do so. And
Can we ask questions first?
You can, yes, I got it.
Why were they not sent in?
I do not know why the owner didn't send them in. I'm representing the parent company of the two tenants there, and I don't know why they were not sent in.
So you're not representing the owner?
Correct.
It goes to the owner though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Under the Boeing decision from Court of Queen's Bench, I think that was confirmed.
Yeah. So it's
My other
good for,
question-
yeah, I guess using those, thankful, you sent me the decisions to take a read at. Yeah, I agree, it does just, it goes to the owner, I mean, owner should comply. But basically, the decisions did leave it up to the board to decide on whether penalty should be applied or not, so.
Any other questions, Mr. Rondo?
No.
Mr. Upton, do you have any questions?
No.
I don't either, so we'll, if you leave, we'll make our decision. Okay, I can advise we made our decision. The city, in this case, Mr. Beckingham has done everything that they have to do to warrant the application they made, and we have to agree with that. The city is entitled to receive these mailers because they use them for remodeling purposes, and the fact that a recommendation may have been made and even accepted is not a basis as a defense to that. So we are granting the city's request. So if evidence is not being given and a recommendation is accepted, that's fine. Otherwise, you have to proceed first, and then also shift to you to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a revised,
I am gonna have a question.
okay, so we have revised recommendation which removes the parking lots and changes the overall value of the store itself to $2,648,000.
Yes, sir.
And that's acceptable, Mr. Beckingham?
Yes.
I got some questions.
Okay, you go ahead and ask them.
You're not, he's not challenging it, but I'm gonna ask you the question. When was this decision made?
Which decision?
Your decision here to make this drop down to 2 million?
Actually, it was probably last week. I believe Mr. Nishi-Beckingham mentioned that that was his main,
So you had come to an agreement prior to this meeting, correct?
yes, sir.
So why, even though we've given your ruling, why should they not get the benefit if you'd already agreed to the previous number?
Well, basically, because of the non-compliance issue, I believe I offered the number to Mr. Nishi-Beckingham, subject to the ruling here regarding the penalties, and I don't believe Mr. Nishi-Beckingham was willing to accept that with the penalties. So that's why I felt it necessary to come in, argue the penalties, and then present the recommendation.
But this, so you had agreed to this number,
Yes,
other than you didn't agree with the
I didn't
penalty,
agree with the penalties, correct.
even though your
The
landlord
The
did not
landlord didn't
submit?
submit it, no.
I've got no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I just have something to say, and that is that there are penalties that obviously are being faced by your client.
Yes.
The corporate in this case was, the culprit, I should say, was obviously the landlord who didn't fulfill requirements. And I guess they have a bone to pick with their landlord in this instance, because the landlord's inaction has cost them extra taxes this year. But that's something they'll have to deal with.
Yeah, there's no actions that they can take, the tenants can take with regards to that, so.
Well, that's,
But that's, it's just the way it is, and that's the way it is, so, yeah.
And I follow where you're coming from, Mr. Chair, and it's probably a discussion we should have after, but if he had agreed prior to this meeting,
well, the fact of the matter is the city has it up, right to make the application, they did so, and we made a ruling, so.
Other than the city's defense, not that I like to defend the city very often, but, but the offer was made, subject to the penalties, right, so.
but you understand that you'd accepted the penalty, well, you still wanted the penalty.
We wanted the penalties, and I didn't want the penalties, so it was an offer subject to the penalties, so.
Okay,
That's why we ended up here to discuss the
Yeah.
penalties, and we got a ruling on the penalties.
And I tell you,
and we're fine.
I didn't understand your argument
Yeah.
when you were making it,
Yeah,
but I think I do now.
okay. Obviously, I didn't do a good job making my argument, which I will improve next time.
the landlord. Next one, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I know, I'm just looking at something here. Okay. So I think our next property would be 456 Talbot Avenue?
Yes, sir. I have a very small recommendation on that. Yes. To give the board some explanation about why.
You should read the ad, the lot
Certainly,
number and the roll
certainly.
number.
My apologies, sir. Property in question, 456 Talbot Avenue, roll number 140917264000, board file number 19-1938. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry, the recommendation basically amounts to a few small details. The additional building value as originally calculated was incorrect at $165,000. So we have put 159 in. That was a depreciation error with our system. Now, the income calculation now, we have, it was originally put in as a kiosk, which is not fair because I don't know of any kiosks that are 2,600 square feet. So we changed the valuation to retail. What that amounts to is a change in the cap rate from 6.3 to 6.9%. Change in vacancy from 2% to 6%.
Is that on this sheet?
That's the old one.
That's the one you just handed out.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
I thought-
That's the old one. Sorry,
Maybe that's why
you-
there were so many copies.
You shouldn't have that one. That's the way it was originally done, and that should be in the brief.
Okay.
Okay,
So which
Sorry,
one's the
it's
right?
okay,
I may have handed that to you, Michelle, by accident. My
Oh, okay.
apologies.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, now it makes sense.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, not at all. So again, we've come up with a revised value of $1,035,000 as opposed to the original value of $1,136,000. There's a slight bump on the rent from $24.62 up to $25.65. I feel that either of those rents are fair based on my comparisons, which are either properties with gas stations attached or properties with additional land. So I'm recommending that a value of $1,035,000 be entered into 2020 roll as a fair and equitable assessment. Thank you, sir.
thank you. I guess my first question to you, Mr. Nishi Beckingham, is that acceptable?
Oh, I'm just running numbers here like crazy. It's a proverbial cut the baby in half, was where the value comes out to. But
It's a biblical,
yeah, it's like it's halfway between where I wanted in the original assessment. It's about 7% difference from where I want. Overall, it's within an acceptable range. So again, we can quibble how we got to the number. The end results are very close to what I wanted, so I will accept that recommendation.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Lorando, on this?
Well, there is, because it does make a difference on the business tax after by that $1.
Yes, it certainly would.
That $1 makes a big difference on the business tax.
On the business tax, so that we won't be agreeing with
But-
it, with
well, no,
the
but
way they
that's what I-
calculated it, yeah.
So you are challenging the actual rent amount, but you're not putting it forward.
Well, I guess what,
You're saying you agree with the bottom number.
the bottom, how you get to the total value, which is my understanding what we can appeal, is really the board has to look at what, at the end result, what's the final value.
But
They've got the right to appeal the amount of the rent when they have business tax.
I know maybe they don't have to if they get it right in the first place, right? You follow me?
Yeah.
He's saying he doesn't quibble about the rent on either. He says he's happy with the $24.62 if that's what it was. And if you use the $24.62, it's $1. It'll drop it down a little bit lower than the $1,035,000, but he doesn't have a problem with that, is what he said.
I would
Is that
still
not correct?
consider that a fair rent, sir.
Yeah.
So
He would
should the
consider-
board choose to decide that that is the fair rent, I certainly have no objection.
See?
Okay, you know what, I've got no problem with reworking the numbers at 2465,
Yeah, $24.62.
2462 either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we can work that
Well,
in.
we'll have to work it out.
And that number will be a little lower then because then
Okay. Yeah, on my brief, I had the $20 rent, the 15 and 20 was the benchmarks, but yeah, to put it at the 24.62 and come up with the new numbers, that'll probably end up,
Close to where you
it
were.
will be exactly where I ended up.
Probably exactly where you
Where I
were.
ended up with the original one, so
Then we don't have
yeah.
a problem with having an
Yeah.
appeal for.
Okay, we'll do the calculation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm out of sequence here, my apologies. I forgot to ask for the non-compliance. As we had yesterday, which is a different hearing,
Okay.
under these circumstances, you had rejected that as
This board has not heard that,
agreed.
and I think we have to deal with it because certainly, we had a decision yesterday, which I'm not gonna, and we shouldn't say what the decision was,
Yeah,
because my board members should have an opportunity.
Certainly.
Yes,
certainly.
so maybe you better put that forward.
Certainly, again, my apologies for being out of sequence. I tend to consider this all one big hearing, even though technically speaking, you're correct, the other board members should hear
Right.
this. They have returned their information request late, July 17th as opposed to July 1st. Now, Mr. Chairman, I believe that we've had an opportunity to use these values, the information that they have to be incorporated in with the reassessment. So while I am asked by my department to make this request, under my, in my opinion, this is a fair, substantial compliance.
Okay, I think that the argument that you would make has been made for you.
Yes. I agree. Yes.
Yes, I don't even think we have to go out the door for
And I
this.
don't,
No.
so I can indicate to my board members that yesterday we heard the same thing. These matters were sent in 17 days late, but the city had it in time to use it for the mass assessment modeling. And on the basis of that, yesterday, our panel decided that the city did not warrant in that circumstance the provision of the penalty they asked for. It wasn't granted. And I'm allowing you both to make whatever decision you want to, but we can do it in an open hearing right now, and just go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're not going to grant it either, I think.
Denied.
Yes, okay,
At nine.
so we can proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next one. Sorry about that, kid.
Oh, no, my apologies for not bringing it up earlier and
No, it's okay.
recognizing that it is separate.
It's difficult to do sometimes when you're on a hearing again. Yesterday, we just dealt with them all one after another, but there is a different panel today other than myself,
Yeah,
so.
thank you. The next property?
It's correct, I'm sorry, let me just make a couple notes here and.
Sorry. My apologies for rushing.
Okay. Okay, so the next then deal with 1131 Nairn Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Property in question, file number 19-1915. Address is 1131 Nairn Avenue. Roll number 1409229610. Mr. Chairman, this property has sent in a request for information. Thank you very much, appreciate that. We have used a value of $21.12 as the rent on this property. Capitalized at 6.9% with a vacancy of 6%. Basically comes out to $700,000. Now, we have an additional land value. If I might direct you to page 6 of my brief. That is our screen print with explanations about what the land value is. The land value is at the rear of the property. This fronts onto Nairn and Stapleton. So the rear of the property would be adjacent residential properties. It is zone C3, which does permit them to put a commercial enterprise on the rear of that portion. So we have estimated the excess land at $297,000. The way our system calculates that is it takes the original overall land value of $1,269,000 multiplied by the portion of land value represented as excess land value.
What page is that on, I'm sorry?
Page 6. There we go. So what we have basically is an excess land value of $21,200. We've applied a value of $297,000 to that excess land value of $21,200. The excess land value rate is $14.01. If I might ask you to look at the very next page, these are my land sales comparisons. You will notice that these are all in the general vicinity of or to the east of this property in the same general neighborhood. These are all overall rents, overall sales prices. So We've put $14 on the rear of this property because essentially speaking, the rear of this property has no frontage on there. So in relation to the $30 for properties with frontage on there, to me, the $14 seems fair. So what we have then to total up things are the $700,000 for the income value, additional land value of $297,000, coming to a total value of $997,000. I would request that the $997,000 be the value of this property, as I noticed that my front page has a value of $1,269,000 on it. So my apologies for the inaccuracies to my brief. $997,000 is my estimated value. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Just a few questions here on the excess land component. You don't have a site plan here showing how you calculated the excess area or anything?
Site plan, let me just see, I might have a photo that might help. And again, I might not.
I didn't see it.
I don't see one either. I'm sorry, I always try and put photos in, and I missed it. No, I don't have a site plan. From my recollection of the aerial photo, the rear parcel is grassed. I'm not sure if it's fenced. The front of the portion is developed with the parking lot and the 7-Eleven.
And the 7-Eleven's been there since 1981. Has there ever been any applications for development of this land?
I don't believe so. It used to be a gas station many years ago, and then the gas station was removed. So at this point, the additional land just represents that rear portion of the property isn't contributing to the economic unit of the property. That piece of land, though, is extraining us to this business that is there. Is of no use to them. But under appraisal theory, the additional land is not used for the income.
So do you have examples where, in this last cycle of sales of excess land, or where it's been subdivided off from convenience stores, or? Well, you listed a couple sales here.
Yeah,
And those would be separate lots. Those would be separate legal entities, right? Not, I'm looking at the difference between excess and surplus, right?
Certainly. I don't know if that parcel is under a separate title, so I wish I could give you an answer on that. These sales that I've shown you are all of buildable lots. That's what a lot sells for. Now, a C3 property with no frontage on a main route could be built on, but with the 7-Eleven in the front, that's basically taking up your visibility. So if they were to ever put another building in the back,
You'd have to go through the 7-Eleven to get to the building? Is
Yes,
that-
sir.
Is that
yes, sir.
certainty?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
In the future, which is speculation, in the future sometime, if this is no longer highest and best use, it could be built on for a larger building.
Any other questions?
No other questions.
Mr. Londo, any questions of the assessor?
The 7-Eleven building was built after they took the service station and gas bar out. Well, it wasn't a gas bar, the gas pumps.
The gas pumps, yeah, I think, and it might be that this was at the same time built and they just adapted that building to it.
But
1981. It seems to me that.
Material doesn't like to sell off land because it's usually under contamination.
Yes, sir.
So did you take that into account,
Well, Mr.
the
Chairman,
contamination?
I did not take any contamination into account. I did not check to see if this is under the impacted sites on the Manitoba government contamination site. As a former gas station, the possibility of contamination is high. I don't have any quantitative information regarding that. My assumption is that it's polluted. To what degree and how much it would cost to remediate, I don't know.
So, shouldn't we have that prior to establishing a value on the land?
For a commercial or industrial use, there are ways to develop this without addressing the contamination. Geotextile between building and land, 2 feet of gravel for parking or asphalt, and it's basically put aside for commercial or industrial use. The burden for residential development is much higher than for the burden for commercial and industrial development. So again, it is contaminated as far as I'm concerned. I'm not certain it would greatly affect the building costs of any building that would be put there. And the building that's there already is grandfathered.
No further questions?
Mr. Upton, any questions?
Yeah, the current structure is 1981, as you said. Has the property ever been used for anything over this period?
The rear portion, no, sir.
The rear portion,
The front
for excess
portion,
parking for neighborhood
it's not
businesses,
even,
or-
it's not even used for parking in the back, it's just grassed, and you can't really, I mean, you get to it if you ran over a curb, but there's no approach to the back.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So are you saying right now then, this land is landlocked, there's no access off of it anywhere?
It has street frontage, there's been no
Street frontage
application
on what street?
on Nairn
Okay.
through the gas station.
Okay,
So the entire lot has frontage, and the entire lot has access. The back portion does not have independent
there's no
access.
independent access, so if it was to be subdivided off, it would require either to keep an approach
Yes, sir.
onto Nairn, or to get an easement
Yes, sir.
onto it,
Yes, sir.
otherwise it's landlocked.
Well, I don't know if they would have to do one of those common access agreements, or else the lot would only have access off of Stapleton and the back residential property,
Okay, and the
which
question I
would
have,
limit its value even more.
no, I have a question though, could it get access onto Stapleton?
It's possible.
Like, is it fronting on Stapleton right now? I don't have we don't have a plot, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to envision my mind.
Certainly. The entire lot is like a rectangle, with the front being Nairn, the short side being Nairn, the long side being Stapleton. I'm sorry, please restate your
So I'm
question.
wondering, could it get an approach onto Stapleton, or any other street other than,
They would have to go through the application process, and that's never a guarantee.
it's fronting on Stapleton though, somewhere?
Yes, sir.
It is, okay. So basically, right now, it's limited value because it's extraneous to the operation of the business.
Exactly.
It's not really sellable unless they get an access. And if they put it on the market, who knows who would want to buy it, because what can you do with it? And the second thing that Mr. Lorendo has pointed out is the fact that it might very well be contaminated as well, which would give you other difficulties and would reduce the value of it.
It may very well.
So,
Again, though, Mr. Chairman, the construction standards are lower for commercial and industrial.
no, I
property.
understand.
Thank you.
And it has a commercial zoning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I don't know how we're gonna evaluate this, but thank you very much for your kindness. Okay, I guess you might want to, so a question, I guess, are you addressing the other overall value, or is the value of the land that is?
Well, this is the first time I've put together that it was the excess land component was the other value. In my brief, the assessor's using a value of 21.65 for the rent, or 21.12 for the rent, and I benchmarked the rent at $20, so not a substantially different issue there. The real, now that I've heard of all this, I think the real issue is the excess land component and whether it has value or not. As I'm just coming across this now, I would have brought some maps in and done a little more analysis on that, but I'll just put forward that I think the excess land component is a speculative value put forward by the assessor. The land certainly is there, whether it has an end result value, is questionable in my mind. We've got an income producing property there that, in all intents and purposes, would have to be redeveloped and moved in order to get pure access to the back of the lot and do some sort of development on there, just from what it is. There's a risk factor for the contamination, which we don't know, and risk factor for getting access to the other streets, which we don't know. So I don't have any evidence or information on that, because I was looking at the income approach, and we were $1 off basically on the rents. So I will leave it to the board to figure the issue out with regards to the excess land component, on the surplus land or excess land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead
Yes,
and
sir.
ask them.
Mr. Nishi-Beckingham, are you aware of what the actual rent in place for this property is?
Let's see what I've got here. I have a feeling that I didn't get. No, I'm not.
Would it surprise you to hear that the rent is $25.66 a square foot, signed in July 1st, 2016?
As I don't know what the rent is, yes, that would surprise me.
Okay. So then, and again,
Yeah.
this is a silly question,
Yeah.
but 2566 is higher than 2112,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No further questions.
Any questions, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, is this a land lease?
This one, I don't believe it is a land lease, but I don't have it. Some of the stores, I don't have information on, and I didn't get information on this stuff.
So Imperial Oil would own this building?
I do not know who owns the building on that. I wasn't even aware of the rent or what they were actually paying for that one. so.
Are we aware of who owns the building?
Very well.
We show Imperial Oil as the owner of the title, and I couldn't say whether they own the building or not.
So could that have been incorporated in that $25 rent?
Could have. Certainly could have.
So we don't really know that that's the rent at 25, but we don't know what they've incorporated in the lease. You haven't seen the lease?
I have not seen the lease. I do have the mailer attached to my brief, which mentions it's a net lease and shows the monthly rent at $54.1667. So, you know, maybe, this is speaking out of turn, but perhaps a better valuation would be to show the $25.66 as rent and have no additional land value.
Mm-hmm. Watch how fast he calculates.
I'll try and calculate that out right now.
But we're gonna have to do it anyway, if that's what we decide to do, so. But see if you like it.
Do you remember your commitment? $800.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
800 and change. We'll see what number they come up with.
Here comes at 8:45. That's the number I get.
What's your bottom number?
845,400. That's the number I calculate. I'd be happy with that.
And I think Sid would be happy with that if I looked at it.
Actually, seems reasonable.
Well, okay, I'm not saying it's a recommendation, but,
Thank you.
but it sounds like a way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So you've got 845 you said? Okay.
845.
next property is gonna be at 630 Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property at 630 Watt Street. File number. I'll just wait for a second.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
I keep hiding his brief.
Yeah, I know,
In my
it's
file.
it's hard to remember.
I
It's
keep
hard-
throwing it over there. and-
Yes, the preliminary matter of non-compliance are the same factual.
17 days late,
Yes, sir.
we made a finding on that, so
Thank
you
you.
can proceed and recommend it.
Sounds good, thank you very much. 630 Watt Street, roll number 02-0411-49000, file number 19-1943. Mr. Chairman, this is a 1971 building. The property is not in a very high-traffic location. It's surrounded by residences with a few adjacent parking lots. I believe there is a bus route that goes by there, but it would be a feeder route. It would not be nowhere near the amount of traffic as it would have any of my comparisons. Mr. Chairman, we've used a value of $17.43 per square foot. In consideration with everything I've heard here over the last 2 days, I feel that the $17.43 might be a high. When I look at comparisons on Cathedral and Main at $14 a square foot, and Arlington and Selkirk at $14 a square foot, this is a better location but less traffic. So, in my opinion, I would feel better with an assessment based on $15 a square foot. However, I would like to make it clear that I'm not empowered to make a recommendation on this property. I'm supporting the $445,000, but I believe that a rent of $15 is much more fair than the $17.43.
Mr. Mickingham, would you find that acceptable if we were to make our...
If you were to make a ruling at 15, that's what I've been requesting for this property.
No, it can't be a recommendation.
It's
It's not a
it's
recommendation.
it's not
It's not a recommendation, but that's your
But
asking for.
that is my asking rent, is the $15. Yeah.
Based on his information then?
Yeah.
Yeah, 38106.
381,065?
Yes, 381,065, 381.
I guess we should have this.
Oh, I think he did. That's the presentation.
Next.
Okay, next would be 404 Edison Avenue.
Property in question, 404 Edison Avenue, roll number 0400485100, file number 19-1906. Mr. Chairman, this is a little different than your typical 7-Eleven. There's a gas bar, there's a 7-Eleven, but there's also an adjoining building which may have been a garage or even possibly a car wash at some point in the past. It's a very plain building with very few windows on it. We've assessed it as storage space. My page 3 shows a number of storage rents. None of them are very good comparables, to be perfectly honest with you. I have, however, bear with me, I just want to make sure I'm not making a recommendation on that one. No, I don't have a recommendation on that. We've used 1003 a square foot as the storage space rent. That is high, that should be $8 as far as I'm concerned. The rent at 2362 appears fair based on The property is at the corner of Edison and Rothesay. It's not a high-traffic route like Henderson or Maine or St. Mary's. There is a small school next to it. I believe there's a few high-rise apartments next to it too. They've been in business since, I believe, 1975, 1963. We've used a rent of $23.62 a square foot for the 7-Eleven portion of the building. The $23.62 seems fair, as all the rents that I have are higher than that for properties with either excess land or properties with gas bars attached. We've used a 7.8 cap rate, which is a fair amount higher than what a lot of the other properties have. I have a small correction on the income approach there. The additional additional building value of 140,000 should read 134,000. The original 140,000 had an error with depreciation. So what I'm looking at here, instead of 1,277,000 is 1,271,000, not inclusive of the $8 recommended rent on the adjacent storage space. So, Mr. Chairman, again, the value is a bit high at 1,271,000, and with the application of the $8 rent as opposed to the $10 rent on the storage space, I feel that that would be a fair and equitable assessment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Beckenham.
Yes. Again, looking at the briefs, this one is, again, it's a little more complicated than the rest. And if I can get you to go to.
This is your time to ask questions.
Oh, to ask questions, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
no questions, sorry.
Oh.
No questions, yeah.
Okay. You have any questions, Mr. Rolando?
I did, but I forgot. You will.
Mr. Upton?
I don't think so right now, thanks.
Okay, so there is a gas station here, so that brings it into higher rental.
Yes, sir, in my opinion.
So, the additional building value, that's not for the storage space we're talking about?
No, the additional building value would be for the pumps and the
Pumps, yes.
canopy. And
Perfect, okay. And okay, that's my questions, thank you.
There's no picture of this, huh?
Yeah, there is. Towards the back.
Yeah, it's not really good. Any questions, since, okay.
That's- It's all one tenant.
I don't believe, there's no one actually using that other space, and we've just used it as storage.
Okay, you can proceed.
Actually, so we'll start, the assessor's got some good photographs in here, so we'll start there. We're just referring to the assessor's photograph page. The building's there. And if I'm correct, it's basically your white roof building there in the back. And really the question becomes, what value does that have, if any? The subject property, if you refer to my page 17, or page 16 of my brief, this is the 7-Eleven training store for Winnipeg, so it's obviously one of the better stores that they have there. They have signed, and the trick was how to calculate out a lease rate for this. They basically signed a new lease rate, a new term in 2018. And you can look at it one of two ways. Here I've got the blended rate for both buildings, because they took the whole structure at basically $14.93 a square foot, $15 a square foot. For if you look at it the way the assessor's done, broken it out into two components, they're basically at $25 a square foot for the store and nothing for this extra building. It's there. And that's, because it is a kind of a unique situation, and it's a relatively new renewal on there. It was for a 7-year term in 2018. I'm requesting that based on the entire square footage, have a rent of $15. Which show the calculations on page 19 of my brief there. Comes to $1,060,000.
Okay. That should.
Yeah, and I do have the assessors included the income return, and I've got the lease summary from 7-Eleven in my brief, which basically confirms the numbers that we're talking about for the site, so.
We should take any questions that, yeah.
Please bear with me for a moment, sir, while I decide if I have a question or not. Mr. Nishi-Beckenham,
Yes.
when we look at the lease renewal for store number 32317, which is 404 Edison,
Yes.
towards the bottom, it mentions it's the training store for Winnipeg, but it shows a rent of $23.58 a square foot? That was what you had mentioned for the whole premise, right?
Well, yeah, they pay, when they do their calculations, they only calculate at the store.
Okay,
Percent rent there, $75,000 there.
okay.
In 2018, so they do have the entire space, but they don't care about that other thing from their perspective. I didn't even know it existed until I saw the assessment work up on it.
Fair enough. They haven't demolished the building, so is there potentially it could be used, but isn't being, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Leno?
What's the $140,000 adjustment then?
Oh, that's for the pumps and tanks.
920 plus. You're using 15 for the entire,
The entire
or
thing.
$25 for, or 2373 would be the actual one we'd be using, because that was 2017, before the new lease was signed. Right?
Yeah.
Basically, they pay $75,000 a year for the site. However you want to break it up, that's really the question of that's what they negotiate.
Okay.
Yeah, what was your blended rate again, Mr. Duke? Your blended rate, you have a blended rate on this?
I don't think I
Doesn't
have
have one.
a blended rate. We just have it broken down by, the store is so much and the storage is so
Yeah,
much.
2362 and $8.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You didn't calculate the blend, okay.
No, sir.
Do you have any questions of the applicant?
So the applicant, right, well, I'll just turn that first.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. You're saying 75,000 is the rental that was declared on this place?
Yes.
Thank you.
So do you know if that building is being used for anything?
As far as I know, it's not being used for anything at the moment.
You don't know if they're storing, you don't know if they are or not then?
No, I've taken a drive by, I haven't talked to anyone in the store there, what they're using it for. But again, if you look at the lease rate, they are leasing everything.
I understand.
So odds are, if it's there, someone's probably got something in there, I'm sure.
So it's available?
It's available, and that's included in their overall rent that they're paying at the
Right.
$75,000 a year, right? So, it's a matter of how you end up breaking that out is really the question. It's a relatively new lease, kind of a unique building. I think it reflects probably market the best we're gonna get, evidence for there. It really comes down to a question of how you wanna break it out,
Okay,
if you wanna look at it that way.
okay, we'll have to do that. And that completes the matter of the agenda today, so thank you very much, and we'll do our work now.
Sounds good.
Thank you.